welcome to Mr. What Presents. Amy Farah Weiss, post-elections. Amy, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much.
So much to talk about after the big game. We wanted to not only debrief about what happened on election day, also talk about future perspectives about what can happen in the next years or month and in between elections and how to keep the momentum going, and also about some burning issues that are facing San Francisco at the moment, and a few of those things that are on your mind. What is the first thing on your mind today that you'd like to talk about?
Well, I was riding my bike over here today, and I was riding down Division Street, and then I was riding up, was it Folsom? And like many people, we're seeing a lot of homeless neighbors on the streets with these makeshift tents and encampments and structures. And so one of the things that I decided to do after the campaign was to actually work with people to put together a action team and implement some of the ideas that I had in my campaign around homelessness. And one of those is the St. Francis Homelessness Challenge. And so I've been working together with a team of people. We're going to be putting on an event at Soma Arts at 934 Brannan. The idea is to take this challenge of how do we integrate the spirit and the values of St. Francis, who really cares about all of our vulnerable neighbors and taking action around it. How do we take that spirit and integrate it into the policy of San Francisco? And you know, I grew up in the Bay Area, and my dad and my brother are big sports fans. And there's a lot to cheer for when it comes to the Giants, the Warriors, the 49ers. My dad works at Levi's Stadium. There's a Super Bowl party that's coming up, and Ed Lee, as we know, has said in the past that he wants to remove the homeless from the area that the Super Bowl is happening in down at the Embarcadero and around Market Street. And you know, part of my campaign was to say we can't just move people without actually moving them somewhere where it's going to benefit the outcomes.
One of these makeshift solutions.
Right. You know, this idea of getting excited about sports and investing a lot of energy around sports, this thought came to me about what if we cared about solving the issues of our time as much as we cared about a sport? Not necessarily even more, but just as much as. And so why don't we challenge ourselves to take action in these different areas? And so with homelessness, I'm calling it the St. Francis Homelessness Challenge. And I want people to be challenging each other to take certain kinds of actions around homelessness. Maybe you could challenge a friend to say, why don't you walk around San Francisco today and think about every person that you see as a human being who has value, and think about what it might be like to be in that situation. So I challenge you to do that. I challenge my city to take action around interim solutions around the thousands of homeless people that are living on our streets right now. How can we do some amazing things? We're in the capital of innovation in the United States, San Francisco Bay Area. We are the headquarters of Burning Man, for crying out loud. What do they do?
We have resources.
We have the resources. We're one of the biggest cities of inequity.
It's amazing how in this bubble,
rich and the poor,
in this economy, it just strikes me every day how the homeless population grows visibly. Rows of tents and people camping there that weren't there before the boom. Certainly a very visible inequality growth there. How do people connect with that project? We've been showing the website and the Facebook page. What is the next thing for folks to do that want to get involved with you on that front?
So they can go to the Facebook page, which is St. Francis Homelessness Challenge. We're looking still for volunteers for our January 2nd event. We're going to be showcasing at Soma Arts at 934 Brannan on January 2nd. What a great way to start off the new year, right? Resolution to care about homeless neighbors. We're going to have people come together, and we're showcasing something we're calling healing hubs and sleep sanctuaries, which are these innovative strategies that end up being cost effective and support outcomes for homeless neighbors, as well as livability and beauty in San Francisco in general. And we're going to be providing a lot of services for the homeless on January 2nd there. We're going to do a sock giveaway. We've got acupuncture lined up. We've got a phone charging station that a Burning Man crew is putting up
So they
that's
are
solar
doing
powered.
something,
Oh, they're involved. Yeah, there's members of a Burning Man crew are helping to set up a couple carports. They're doing a light display. They're doing the cell phone charging station and helping with the kitchen. So we're going to also have free food that day. We're going to have a talk from someone who does this amazing app I would look up called Concern. It's spelled CONCRN.com. And you can find out more about that. It's training people in verbal de-escalation so that when there's an issue on the street, instead of dialing 911, you can actually use this app in order to have a trained volunteer come and see if they can calm down the situation, which is really great.
And that will take us to our next issue is police brutality. Before we go there, I just want to bring up this survey that you guys have to close that issue, that chapter of homelessness. So tell us a little bit more about that survey and who should go there and file and why. And then we will move on to the necessity for mediation between people, just so we don't get into accidents and murders such as Mario Woods recently in the Bayview, which we will talk about next. So let's close the homelessness chapter with just a word about what we're seeing here.
Sure. If you go to stfrancischallenge.com, it'll take you to this online quiz and survey. If you just get through the first 10 questions, great. It's giving you the logic and about how we decided to strategize about creating solutions by sharing the context of San Francisco's homelessness situation. And then there's opportunities to learn more about the St. Francis Challenge and then actually get involved with taking action and donating. You can make a tax-deductible donation, which would be wonderful to our efforts. So stfrancischallenge.com will get you to that survey.
Time to move on to that next issue, the Mario Woods murder in Bayview. I was just reading today that it was seemingly not involving any knife in the hand of the victim. Very brutal incident.
Well, this was something that I was hoping to be able to accomplish as mayor, where we would actually get the opportunity to infuse the police department with more of a verbal and physical de-escalation approach. And I really liked this idea of starting a program called the Stewards of Peace, where we're training people in those skills, and I still think that can happen. One of the things I'd like to see people do while they're calling for the resignation of Police Chief Sir, is to really think about a short list about who they would like to see in that position. Rather than just calling for the resignation of one person, let's think about who it is that really embodies those values that we want to see, infusing them into the police department. And, you know, when I was campaigning, I got connected with All Tribes, which is part of United Players, and they talk about Grace Lee Boggs, and they talk about Africa Bambaataa, who started really hip hop and this idea in New York of using creativity and culture in order to heal and to reduce divisions and conflict. And so I would love to see a person of color become the police chief. I would love to see someone who has that ethos of harm reduction. And you know what's interesting, let me just make it clear again, if we had become mayor, we would get to choose. We'd have the authority and the privilege to choose who was the police chief. We'd have the authority and privilege to change the selection and training process. Now Ed Lee has that authority and privilege.
Right.
And he is saying that he wants to focus more on de-escalation. He came out and said that, which is really good. And we need to work together with him now because he is going to be the leader of San Francisco for the next 4 years. But think about that squandered opportunity, because a lot of the people that are taken off to go to the protests and getting involved in this issue might have even voted for Ed Lee. And if you did vote for Ed Lee, then now's the time to hold him accountable, as the person that you chose to represent you. We should be thinking about doing, how do we transform SFPD? Think about this. What if whenever a police officer entered into a situation, they had to say certain words. You know, when you arrest someone, you have to give them their Miranda rights and you have to read a certain
Correct.
list. What if you were approaching a situation and said, I know that this is a tense situation. Like, I'm here to keep the peace. I respect that you're a human being. I know that you are someone's child. These are things that we could actually, if we decided in San Francisco, as the people, what our police department that protects and serves us, the people, we could actually say, whenever a police officer enters a situation, they have to say certain things. Isn't that interesting? Like how that
Well,
would
but
maybe
then
even
they will
set the
tell
whole
you, but
tone?
there was a knife in that hand, which
Even
then later
then.
gets proven wrong.
Even then.
So
I'm
that's
here to keep the peace. Like if you're trained and you actually have to acknowledge that, and if you're really focused on de-escalation, that verbal engagement is part of it. You know, you still can keep the peace and
right.
be secure, but if you started off in this different way, just an idea.
There's certainly many
Yeah.
steps that can be taken before, shooting about 12 or 20 bullets on someone.
That was an execution. That's
Right.
an example of poor training and directives.
Yeah, or some other reasons that we can't tell, but certainly discrimination of sorts with a certain individual. I don't think someone in a fancy Uber car or would have been treated in the same manner.
No.
Probably not.
And Mario Woods, I actually found on YouTube, he did a video 10 years ago about growing up in Hunters Point and talking about the challenges of that. And Mario Woods is somebody's son. Mario Woods is loved by many people. And the way that it was presented was, this is a thug. This is someone who went to jail. And we already know about the cycle of why we need to have a movement called Black Lives Matter, because there's institutionalized racism and less opportunity for people of color. And so it's important that we shift that, because people do end up in prison and do end up getting
Right.
profiled by the police and ending up in jail and going down these paths.
These cycles that are created for them by the system.
Yeah.
You just mentioned, had I been mayor, or if I were mayor, I would make these more informed, more humane decisions. Tell me more about how what your read of the run is, how the counts and the decisions at the end of the day either rejoiced you or saddened you, and what is coming up for Amy Farah Weiss, what is happening now, and what is happening in the next year or two for you.
Well, I ended up getting 23,000 votes and 12% of the vote. And collectively, Stuart, Francisco, and I got over 30% of the vote. And what I like to call, I'd like to everyone start calling it this. We were the 2015 five, because collectively, the five of us who challenged Ed Lee received over 70,000 votes. We got over 35%
That
of
was
the vote.
amazing. I mean, of course, winning would have been more amazing, but
Yeah.
given that you
Yeah.
guys had literally no budget, and that Ed Lee and some of the big, campaigners were pouring hundreds of dollars per voter.
Yeah.
That in itself is definitely noteworthy. Keep going. Tell me more about how you feel about this whole race.
Yeah, so it was challenging because one of the things that happened was, it was really when we had that first forum, the League of Women Voters, really, they are protectors of democracy in San Francisco. Really, one of the key forces that created a more equal playing field for smaller grassroots candidates. So they put on the forum, the League of Women Voters, and that was, I think it was October 8th, so it was already after people had started voting, which is really tricky, because I think moving forward, because we know that people are voting up to a month beforehand, the League of Women Voters should do their forum a month before that.
That would make a lot of sense. A lot of the momentum with you and that coalition came kind of late.
It came
And then
after
it became
the forum.
amazing. Everybody started to feel that can happen, right?
Yeah.
That your strategy of vote 1, 2, 3 really took on.
Right.
But it did happen in the last 6 weeks or 8
It really
weeks
did.
of the run. So
No, it was the last 3 weeks.
oh, right. So there was definitely
It was
a
the
helter
last three
skelter
weeks.
feel about
Yeah,
it.
so it was challenging because I know that if we'd had another 3 weeks, we would have won. I know it. I have no doubt. I know that if we had had a televised debate, we would have won. I have no doubt in my mind. So it's, let's remember Ed Lee got 55% of the vote. And I would meet people on the street while I was campaigning, or I'd meet people on the bus when I was campaigning, and they would say, it was last week, oh, I heard you on NPR. I had one interview, and it was a week before all the candidates were interviewed on KLW, NPR, but I was only a week beforehand on the radio. So that's, they aired Ed Lee's and the other candidates a week before that, so that people were voting that whole time. And as we saw, over half of the votes were cast before the election with absentee.
Right.
So we really have to figure out how we push ahead into September as the month that we have a debate. And really, the media did a major disservice to democracy and to their profession. It was small media like you and others, and blogs and smaller radio shows that were really giving us a forum. And the larger stations, they missed an opportunity, and they shirked their responsibility to be able to have an honest discussion around the key issues facing San Francisco and engage people around them.
Yeah, it came over and over again that there was no opposition to Ed Lee, which definitely even from alternative media or smaller publications didn't make any sense.
Right.
There definitely was some money talking in those statements.
I guess so. Or
misinformation.
I'm not even sure exactly why, except, even people who claim to care about grassroots democracy and participatory democracy and emerging leaders gave us the brush off during this election. And so it was really challenging in that regard. But, moving forward, what I would like to see happen, I actually created a survey during my time in the campaign. And so around July or so, I created a survey, and it was focused on, tell me what your top 3 issues are as voters. And then here are the top 13 issues as I see them for San Francisco. Would you like a public forum about this with the candidates? Would you like a debate? Would you like a teach-in? Would you like a solutions forum? So I asked people after each issue after I framed it. And I sent that around to all of these different Democratic clubs, the media, and they didn't help promote it.
Right.
And the thing is, I sent it to the candidates too, and I said, I'm going to share all the data, every single piece of information except the email addresses that I get and names. I'm going to send to you, and you can have this data. And I did send it to them. I had about 200 responses, and obviously the top 3 issues, are the issues affecting San Francisco today. Housing affordability, homelessness, Black Lives Matter, Clean Power SF. These are the kind of issues that came up that people wanted to discuss. And then we could work with the media, we could work with the candidates, we could work with the Democratic clubs to create this voter survey in San Francisco every year that is really extensive, and people get to participate in that.
You want to invite people to join you? Where do they go now if they want to follow what you're doing?
Still, the St. Francis Homelessness Challenge, and then on Facebook, there's the Vote 123 to replace Ed Lee group is still there. We can't change the name because we have over 5,000 members, or else we'd change it to something more forward thinking.
All right. And that was our show.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for coming, and you guys stay tuned to Amy Farah Weiss.